Listen, I totally get it. A partner showcase on paper isn't very exciting. We have had some absolute stinkers of Nintendo Direct partner showcases. I think back to that first infamous partner showcase that announced WWE 2K Battlegrounds and not much else aside from a new trailer for SMT5, of course, but there have definitely been some stinkers when it comes to partner showcases. But today I want to talk about why a partner showcase this February actually could be pretty exciting. Let's talk about it. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today I wanted to discuss the potential partner showcase, Nintendo Direct partner showcase, that we might be getting tomorrow. Now, at the time of recording, we just got a trailer for Princess Peach Showtime, unveiling some new abilities, and they all look great. Some new renders of Peach came out, very nice. But today I wanted to talk about the potential of a partner showcase tomorrow, because as the rumors have indicated, we will be getting that on the 15th from Necrolipe over at Universal Nintendo. Nate the Hate had kind of corroborated that they would be a partner showcase, so it seems like we might be getting a partner showcase shadow dropped tomorrow morning. And for those that don't know, partner showcases have come out in very weird ways at different times. Like, sometimes they give notice, but usually they just shadow drop it without any notice. The last time we got one back in 2022, there was a full day's notice, so that to me says it might not actually be that good. I will say that before we get into the potential of this showcase. With the 2022 Partner Direct in June, I think that was easily the strongest partner showcase we've gotten. We had all the Persona games announced, we had Pac-Man World Repack, like there was a decent amount of stuff in there. Even stuff like Mario plus Rabbids was shown in that partner showcase. And because it was a bigger showing, I think that's why they gave it that 24 hours notice, whereas with the other partner showcases, with the exception of the one that announced Monster Hunter Rise, they've just shadow dropped them, which could indicate that it won't be that good. But I'm not going to sit on that negative thought, so today I wanted to discuss the possibility of this actually being a pretty dang good partner showcase. So I've listed out a ton of games that actually I think would all make sense to pop up here, or at least could pop up here. I'm not saying all of these things will happen at once, but I just wanted to pause these ideas because I think there's a lot of potential for exciting new announcements, be it new games, be it ports to Switch that we haven't seen just yet, and honestly, even maybe some games that might be published by Nintendo, which I know sounds crazy, but of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch news, speculation, discussions, all of that stuff, please consider subscribing. Now, like I said, I've listed out quite a few things here, and I feel like there's a good chance a decent amount of these happen. I'm not saying all of them, once again, just to really make it clear, you know, my expectations are like, I'm like lukewarm on this partner showcase, right? I think there will be at least one like really exciting thing, but I'm not expecting, you know, Nintendo to just go crazy with their third-party games, especially if the Switch 2 is coming out, you know, either later this year or early next year. Like, I don't think third parties would even want to go that crazy. But I've listed out a lot of games here, and we will start with the highlights, and that is the potential of a first-party announcement in this partner showcase. For those that are unaware, there have been Nintendo-published games in partner showcases many times. In fact, most times, most partner showcases have had some sort of Nintendo first-party game showcased, because Nintendo does a lot of publishing work. So like, we've seen Age of Calamity in a partner showcase because Koei Tecmo makes that game. We've seen Alive Alive in a partner showcase because Nintendo published that game in America. Even something like Part-Time UFO, which is made by HAL Laboratory, the developer of Kirby, that popped up in a partner showcase. So to me, I look at the dearth of Switch games coming out this year and how there's just not much happening from Nintendo first party, and I think, well, maybe they are publishing something that they aren't developing from one of their own studios, maybe something that they don't necessarily own. So, I mean, I've talked about a Xenoblade Warriors, or just a new Warriors game in general. You know, we've never seen a game of that scale announced in a partner showcase, but we have seen them updated with like DLC or something in these directs. So a Warriors game I think is possible, although that would definitely be like the biggest announcement in any partner showcase, I would say. But I think that is possible. It does seem to like line up with the timing, since 3 Hosts was just about 2 years ago, and I mean, these games don't take that long to make, so I think a Warriors game is possible here. I'm not going to get my hopes up for it. What I think is way more likely, though, is a new game from Square Enix that Nintendo is choosing to publish. Pretty much every year of the Switch, we've had something from them. In fact, I actually expected this game to be announced during the Game Awards, if there is one. I don't know how exciting it will be. I mean, we'll talk about more in depth on Square Enix in just a second here. You know, I was thinking the new game from Team Asano, the developers of Octopath, Bravely Default, like their next project. But I feel like that would be something that Square Enix would want to save for the next console, just to really kind of be in that first wave of Switch 2 launch window games and get that hype going for it. So I think would be more likely from them this year is maybe a remake or remaster collection of the first Bravely Defaults and Bravely Second from the 3DS. I remember back in like 2018, I mean, they were teasing this. That ended up just being for Bravely Default 2, but those games, I feel like, wouldn't be that crazy to ports. And Square Enix the past couple of years has shown that they really like porting games to the Switch. I mean, they've pretty much ported most of their back catalog at this point, or remastered it for the Nintendo Switch. And then, of course, those games will also come to PS4. You know, most of the Mana games have come over. Pretty much every Final Fantasy game has come over, aside from Final Fantasy 13, which maybe we finally see that come over to modern platforms here. But I think something from Team Asano that could be published by Nintendo could show up here, and that would be a little bit more exciting, even if it is just a port or remaster collection of the Bravely games that are on 3DS. Other titles from Square Enix that I think could pop up here: Dragon Quest III HD 2D was announced a very long time ago. I think it was over 2 years ago now, coming up on 3. So Dragon Quest III HD 2D, I don't really know what's going on with that. They announced it in their own event, so I don't think Nintendo would be publishing it, but maybe it's finally time we see that. Dragon Quest 12, I think it's too early. I think that would be after Dragon Quest 3 releases. Other ports I think could happen, something like Nier Replicant. We actually saw in the last partner showcase, Nier Automata got surprise announced for the Switch, and that already released, and I think it did pretty well on Switch, so maybe we could see Nier Replicant come over. I mean, that port of Nier Automata ran really well. Like, for a Switch port of a PS4 game, I thought that was a really great port, so Nier Replicant is something that I think we could see. And then from Square Enix, it's kind of hard to predict. Like, we don't have that many smaller games announced right now. We've heard them talk about how they're going to kind of change their strategy and focus more on AAA, I believe, but I hope that's not the case. I hope we do see some more of these AA or even single A JRPGs from them. We know Saga Emerald Beyond, I believe that's the name. I think that's coming out in April, but beyond that, I don't really know what other small games they have announced right now. There was rumors of a Saga Frontier remastered, Saga Frontier 2 remastered, sorry, like a year or two ago. Maybe it's finally time we see that, or even just some other, you know, I'm trying to think of like other PS1 games that haven't come over. We already got Legend of Mana. There's so many games in the Square Enix well that haven't come to Switch yet, so maybe we would just see some more random stuff get ported over to modern platforms from them. Bandai Namco is another one that I think we could see quite a bit of. They usually show up pretty heavily in these Nintendo Directs, so One Piece Odyssey I think did pretty well. It's a pretty graphically, like, nice looking game, or at least in terms of like having the realistic graphics, but I don't think it would be too much of an issue to get that ported to the Switch, especially since Ilka made it and they have experience with the Switch because of BDSP. So One Piece Odyssey I think could come over. And then in terms of unannounced games or games that we just don't know about, they had said they wanted to do more Tales of remasters. So we already got Tales of Symphonia, and I think Tales of Vesperia is the name of the other one. So those already came to Switch, but maybe we could get like Exilia or something, or even Zestiria on the PS4 or Berseria. Like there's plenty of Tales of games that they could go back to, Tales of the Abyss even, so maybe we get another remaster from them. And speaking of remasters, Pac-Man World 2 Repack, I mean, I think they had said they intended to do that if the first game did well, and I'm pretty sure it did well when it came out back in 2022, which was also announced in a partner showcase. So Pac-Man World 2, I feel like, is a pretty safe bet for this Nintendo Direct. Could we see Xenosaga Trilogy come over to the Switch? Probably not. Probably not. You know, we're talking about Xenosaga like a remake or a HD. Realistically, we would just get pretty one-to-one ports of these games, I imagine. I don't think Monolith Soft would be that involved, so maybe that's why Nintendo wouldn't publish it. But maybe it's too soon after Baten Kaitos, especially because I don't think the reception of those ports was all too high. So maybe Nintendo would want to be a little bit more protective of the Xenosaga IP, even though, I mean, Bandai Namco does own it, I believe. Maybe they would have more, you know, thoughtful discussions about that game versus Baten Kaitos, which Nintendo probably didn't really care about. And if we're talking Nintendo partners, we also have to talk about Sega here. Now, they announced a ton of games at the Game Awards. They're like, I don't know if it's part of their Super Game or whatever. They announced a new Crazy Taxi game, Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Streets of Rage. Like, there was a ton of games announced from Sega in terms of reviving their old IP. Could we see some of those? I know there's been rumors that some of those aren't even coming out until like 2027. Shinobi, I feel like, is something that could be. I mean, it's a pretty, I mean, it looks really nice, but it's a 2D game. I feel like that's not as high stakes as like Crazy Taxi or Jet Set Radio. So maybe we would see one of those get announced here, or shown here with a concrete release date. Because I mean, if they announce them in 2023, I'd imagine at least one of those 5 games would be releasing sooner than later. But then also from Sega, I mean, they just announced Sonic Shadow Generations at the State of Play a couple weeks ago. I think that would be a shoe-in here for a new trailer, and maybe actually get a release date. All they announced so far was holiday 2024. And then from Atlus, which is owned by Sega, of course, they just released Persona 3 Reload, which means they probably should be announcing something else. They do have Unicorn Overlord coming out from Vanillaware, and Atlus is publishing that, so maybe they could like shadow drop a demo for that or something and give it one final push before it releases in April. But more excitingly, I mean, Unicorn Overlord is exciting, but more excitingly would be like a new port announcement or something, or even a new game if possible, but that's unlikely. So I would hope for maybe Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Apocalypse to come over, maybe Soul Hackers 2, which didn't do very well on PS5, maybe some of the 3DS SMT games come over. Like, there is so much potential and back catalog in terms of Atlus to bring over to the Switch and PS4 and PS5 and Xbox, right? That maybe we finally see some more of their back catalog start coming over. I'd be very excited to see that, especially Apocalypse, because I love SMT4, but I never played Apocalypse, and I would really like to do that. So I would love to see some Atlus stuff come over. A couple of various things here. Ayuden Chronicle comes out in April. I think that would probably get a trailer, maybe a demo drop. And speaking of Ayuden Chronicle, we also have Suikoden 1 and 2 from Konami. Maybe that finally gets dated. It was supposed to come out in 2023, but it got delayed, so maybe we finally see that. And speaking of Konami, I mean, they just did the Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1 last year. I'm not sure what the time frame is going to look like for Collection 2. I'm not even sure what games would be included with that. I would assume like Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 4, so maybe that would take a little bit longer to do because, you know, the first collection is just like NES ROMs, a PS1 game, and some PS2 games, so I imagine Volume 2 will probably take a little bit longer. Something from Ubisoft I think we could see is Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary Edition. I mean, that game technically has not been announced yet. It was leaked and it was playable on Xbox, but it hasn't really been announced yet. They released a statement saying like, hey, you weren't supposed to see this, but that game hasn't been announced yet with a date. I believe it is the 20th anniversary of Beyond Good and Evil, so maybe this is where we finally see this anniversary edition of that game. It was already rated by the ESRB, like it's a very much a real game, so maybe we finally see that here. Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion was announced last year as well. This is a sequel to Daemon X Machina, of course, from 2019, which Nintendo actually published. Don't think they're publishing this one. They did not announce platforms for it, so maybe this is something they're saving for Switch 2, which is maybe that's why they didn't announce platforms, but we could totally see that here. And then the indie games are a little bit harder to predict because, you know, they have Indie World. So I feel like this would be reserved for some of the bigger indie games. So something like Hollow Knight Silksong, I know it's a meme at this point, but maybe it's finally time. We've heard rumors of Penny's Big Breakaway being shadow dropped. That's that new game from the Sonic Mania team. That could totally happen here. Something I don't think there's been any rumblings about, but just makes too much sense in my opinion, is Pizza Tower. That game looks awesome. It's a Wario Land type of game, and I mean, that it really was like a blow up hit indie game last year. And even as I'm talking here, I believe Hades 2 is supposed to come out in 2024. I feel like that wouldn't really fit in an indie showcase because Hades is so popular. Maybe we see Hades 2 get a release date here. Something like Stray even, I don't think that was announced for Switch yet. I know it came to Xbox, but that was a really popular game on PS5 when it released, so something like that. Like, indies are just a little bit harder to predict, but I definitely think we will see some bigger indie games in this partner showcase if it even ends up happening. And then finally here, another publisher I need to talk about before we end off is Level 5. Now, Level 5 last year announced a ton of games for the Switch, and we don't have dates for any of them yet except for one, which is Megaton Musashi. That is coming out in April. I don't know if it's a worldwide release. I think it might just be Japan, but that is releasing in April. But then all of their other games that they have announced don't have dates. They have announced Inazuma 11, Fantasy Life I, Deca Police, and Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. Like, all of those games are coming within the next 12 months, I would assume. Professor Layton might be a little bit further off. And then they've also teased a new Yokai Watch game to be announced in April at their next Level 5 Vision Showcase. They could wait until then to show all of these games again, but I would imagine, you know, Megaton Musashi, Fantasy Life I, Deca Police, like, these are all prime candidates to show up in this partner showcase. And hopefully we start getting some dates here. I know Fantasy Life I has been the topic of much debate when it comes to the release date, because they were like, oh, we're going to announce the release date when we know something else or whatever. So people think it's because they were waiting for the Switch 2 release date, and that could be the case, and maybe that's why they haven't dated it yet. But I totally think we will see some sort of representation from Level 5 in this partner showcase. The reason I made this video is because I feel like there's been so much negativity about like, oh, this is a partner showcase and partner showcase equal bad. And while most partner showcases have been bad, there's always like a silver lining. Even the first partner showcase with WWE 2K Battlegrounds, like, that had SMT5 and SMT3 Nocturne, the remaster, like, it had those exciting announcements. I don't think the one that came after had anything too exciting, but the September one had Monster Hunter Rise, which is a huge game. And then the one in October, once again, I don't think had anything too exciting. I think No More Heroes 1 and 2 got ported in that. And then in, of course, June 2022, we had a pretty big one with Nier Automata, the Persona ports, Mario plus Rabbids, Sparks of Hope, like Live Alive. Like, there was plenty of stuff in that partner showcase. So I'm just trying to say it could be good. Don't get your expectations too high. You know, we've been burned on these things before, but personally, since we're not getting a full direct in the first half of the year, it looks like, I would expect this to be at least a little bit meatier than the bad ones from 2020, but that's just my opinion. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. What do you think we could see in this upcoming partner showcase? Once again, if it even exists, I guess we'll know in 24 hours if the insiders were right. I would lean towards believing it at this point, but we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, let me know what you think will be announced in it in the comments down below. What would you like to see announced in the comments down below, of course, as well. And subscribe here if you haven't already. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames, join the Discord that is linked down below. And until next time, folks, peace.